Alrighty guys, just laying here with the wood heater being a little bit too hot, so I've got the door open. Wanted to talk about learning languages. How do you do it successfully? How do you get somewhere from the get-go? Now, I learned a bit of French off of, 6 CDs. I'm not even sure if I got to the last 1 or 2 CDs, but I listened to quite a lot of these CDs as I used to drive to and from work on a lonely stretch of road. Long story short, they were from a particular well-known German supermarket chain, and they really weren't the best way to learn, I'll put it like that. There's something you may notice, and I'm not joking, it happens in some of the best language teaching things on CDs that you've paid for. There's another well-known one, I don't know if it's Spanish Pod 101 or something like that, on YouTube, does the same bloody thing, and this CD with the French, the same damn thing. What it'd do is you'd have to learn stuff, and you would realise what you're looking at if you had half a brain, that it wasn't quite the same, like this particular one that I've seen, on YouTube with Spanish. Very well edited, very well done, high definition. They got a native Spanish speaker, not, some American who learnt because they lived in Texas or New Mexico, somewhere down near the border. You've got somebody who is neatly dressed, talks well, you've got all the animations, but there's one thing that really stuffed up. What you would see as one example wouldn't make sense with something else, or you'd see it explained differently as different words that would actually make sense on a smaller YouTube channel. For instance, just the word welcome was supposed to be bienvenido or some bloody thing like that. I forget exactly what it is in Spanish. But then, just earlier on, when somebody, you do something for somebody and they thank you for the favour, you say it's welcome, and the way you say it is de nada, D space nada, and I knew that's not quite right. Nada means nothing, and then the penny dropped. Generally speaking, it is S, but it's something, de nada is something along the lines of it's nothing, or it was nothing, or something like that. Yet they refer to it as you're welcome, yet only 30 seconds later, same video, welcome is bienvenido or some friggin' thing like that. So you can tell there were bits that ain't bloody well lining up. And you say, no big deal, it's YouTube. Well, this is a premier place that's trying to sell you a frickin' package, and things aren't making sense from day one. In a lot of cultures, when you do a favour for someone and it's not much of an effort and they say thanks, you say, it's nothing. But, why confuse you at the very start like that? This French CDs I'd listen to, they do the same bloody thing. And you'd say, hang on a minute, no, that was something else. And they'd even cross it through, like they'd tell you it's one thing, and then, another lesson or two down the track, they'd say it's something completely different. It's like, hang on a minute, I know 2 days ago I was listening and he explained it to be something similar but not the same as what you're saying now. And it's sort of, no, you're confusing me. That's one of the real pains in the arse, and it'll be done by some of the ones that are supposed to be the most bloody professional and well laid out. Now, the other stupid thing, which is usually done when you're in schools and also by everything else, which has got all the nice graphics and all this crap, it's just this brainless old method that's never bloody worked very well, and in all practical purposes is friggin' flat on its face. Like, it's just useless in the real world. In the practical sense, it's just horse shit. And what it is going through a big list of things with a picture, you know, horse, show a picture of a horse, then say the version in Spanish, you know, and then do this and do that, blah, 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 blah. And all the simple-minded dickheads who don't think these things through automatically assume that you form a sentence in French and Spanish it's quite similar in French, and it's not too far wrong in Spanish, but plenty of other languages, the grammar is completely different. The way you structure words and even the existence of some words aren't there. There's certain things that, like in Spanish, you don't say, it's not good, or no, I don't like it, or something like that. It's just the no is the first word of the sentence, and then you're going for there. And when you have a sentence with a question mark, you actually put an upside down question mark at the start and your proper question mark at the end, like your normal question mark at the end. And it's a little bit hard because there's only a very slight annotation, and it's almost the same word. The word from saying it is to asking is it, which makes it hard. And there's some things that in French, I know they just drop these words altogether that we have in English that are sort of almost unnecessary, because it's like, you know, I want, or I can't remember exactly what it is, but instead of saying I want, and I notice I do this with Spanish not all the time, but most of the time, instead of saying I want, you just say want, because, I mean, if you're saying it, it's automatically just assumed that when you say want, that you yourself want it. And if not, then you got to say they want it, you know. But otherwise, you just, you know. And there's some things where you just drop out words that you use in English normally, but when you really look at the nuts and bolts of it, there's no point to it. And these other languages are smart enough to have picked that up. But then these other languages are dumb enough to have picked up this whole masculine, feminine thing, and everything is classified as a male or a female, right down to what bloody individual vegetable you're looking at. And I tell you what, it's fucking stupid, actually. I think it's ridiculously complicated. But see, the point I'm trying to make here is most of these places go around teaching you in stupid ways. Very stupid ways, by confusing the shit out of you, by trying to, you know, not say the real word as it actually is meant. And there are some words that don't exist in other languages, and plenty of words that exist in other languages that do not exist in English. And some words that these other languages just find unnecessary, so they just throw them out, certain parts of grammar and stuff like that. But the point is sitting there learning what a cat's called, el gato, what a dog's called, un perro, perro, and all this stuff. It's all sort of, it's all good and great, but it doesn't mean shit until you can stick it together to make a reasonable sentence. Otherwise, you're just going to come up to someone Spanish and say, cat, pet, me, house, and walk off, and they're just going to go, what the fuck was all that about? But if you can say, Tengo una mascota. I have a pet, comma, es el gato, it's a cat, full stop. And then something along the lines of it's in my house, you know, they're going to know you have a cat at your home, and it's going to make sense. But if you just sort of don't have that ability to stick those words together, it's like trying to make a cake and you got the flour but you got no water to make all the ingredients to stick together, you know, and it just, what are you going to do? Mix all this bloody cocoa powder and icing sugar and all this friggin' flour together, and it's just going to be a big heap of shit. It's not going to be practically edible. And the same thing goes when you memorize these big banks of bloody words that are all for things, animals, objects, food, blah, blah, blah. And it's pointless until you can get to something that will teach you, and very few things will teach you this straight up. Very, very few even ever bloody get serious about it for a long time. How you can practically stick a sentence together, and even if you can't say much when you have the I'm going to, I want to, I will, I need, I don't need, I like, I don't like, then you can just throw in all the I do like cats, I don't like dogs, I do like pancakes, I don't need pancakes, I want blueberries. And then, you know, you're talking like someone's 5-year-old, but at least you're making sense when you're there trying to buy some food in the middle of some country that you've never been to, and, you know, or whatever. You know, you actually talking very slow, but you are making practical sense to a Spanish speaker. I recommend one called Pro Spanish, which is on YouTube. I don't know what his actual name is, but he's got a website that's prospanish.co.uk or something. Very primitive videos. I will admit the ones on YouTube, he sometimes does stuff up. But from those... From what I learned out of about half an hour of those videos, now gives me the ability to form a proper sentence, and with a couple other bits sprinkled in, I can say anything from I will eat your dog to I like big tits. I mean, really, you know, and that's quite practically what I can do. And literally that took half an hour of these lessons, and I watched this, you know, there's 2 lessons of 15 minutes, and I watched them like frickin' 3 times over the last few days. And, you know, it's not impractical to expect to be able to speak another language in a fucking week. If you're really hard-nosed at it, if you're an intelligent person, it's not impractical to be able to expect to speak a language in a basic sense, especially one that's related to English, sort of kind of maybe, you know, a bit like French or Spanish, or one that's, you know, not too far, maybe even Italian, not too far strung out from, you know, and shares a handful of words. And you'd be shocked there's about bloody 400 words in Spanish that are shared or almost shared with, you know, English and Spanish share very similar words. There's a particular thing where they don't put double letters, like the word different. You don't put double F there. You only put single F. And if you put double F, it means it's got to be drawn out, which is the difference between the word perro, dog, and perro, but, as in, I like this but don't like that. And, that's one of the things they do. And anything that ends in ANT, arrogant, or ENT, different, or whatever, anything that falls into that, they just put an E on the end of. And then as for your feminine and masculine, you find out that a lot of things have L, which is masculine, and anything that's, no comprendo, O, anything that ends with an O or has an O on the end as opposed to an E, then that's la, and that'll be a feminine. Pretty sure I've got the masculine and feminine right there. But anyway, anything with an O on the end, 90-something% of cases, it's going to be the la, and anything else, you can assume that it's the L, and that's just that whole feminine and masculine thing that French and Spanish and probably a couple other languages have. That's a little bit complicated, but this is the thing. There's a whole ton of words that only have an E on the end, or quite literally are spelt the same, but you just sort of differente, and they've got a thing where they go on. The G might turn into a H, or almost a barely heard H. The H is silent. The double L is set as a Y. The Y is set as, in some cases, it's set as a J, but a Y just on its own actually means and it's just set as eh. And when you grab all these little practical tidbits, all your it's, ands, buts, it is, I'm going to, I want to, blah, 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 and then you come through with, other ones that you can use, like I want to study, eat, drink, whatever, go, come back. It all makes a lot of sense, and then you can say you're going to eat something or drink something. The actual word for something is algo. But, then you've got all your different, vegetables and foods and standardized common dishes and all that you can say that you're going to eat, or you're going to drink sangria or wine or frickin' Coca-Cola mixed with cocaine or whatever you're going to do when you're down in Colombia or wherever. But anyway, this sort of, gives you a bit of an idea of what you should be trying to search out. And all this endless list of, cat, el gato, dog, el perro, cow, el cawa, boom, 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 boom. At the end of the day, like, if you want to get the word for orange fruit juice, let me tell you, it is a fucking mile long, because it's almost said, the juice of the extraction of the fruit of the orange, or the orange of the fruit sort of thing. It's a highly long drawn out way of saying these things, and some of these things, they'll be a bit too hard to memorize, and other things, like, do I really need to know how to say friggin' forward, like, what I'm saying? Some of these things are just so, what's the point of them? Am I going to need to say, a satellite dish in Spanish in my first week? Probably not, because I'm not going to be installing satellite dishes for anyone, and this is the thing, that these big banks of words don't mean a damn thing. You've got to get down to the nitty-gritty of simple words that are joining words that are used to hook a sentence together and make simple, practical sentences, so you sound like a 5-year-old kid, but at least you are getting through to these people. And that should be achievable in a week, maybe 2, depends on what language you're going for. Anyway, that's my experience, and I hope you gleaned something from that that's worthwhile. And trust me, there is so much shit on YouTube, you don't need to go buying anything, really.